shifts that have happened over the past 2 years or so. Firstly, we're starting to see that shift from feature phone to smartphone. What we've also seen is that the mobile web has shifted from slow and expensive to fast and cheap. And there is a gradual sort of empowerment of the browser in the same way that I think we saw in 99, 2000 when the desktop browser started to become more powerful. So there's a lot of talk about apps versus browser, and we can definitely debate that. There have been some changes as well. I think the user experience of the internet on mobile has changed fundamentally. It's become easier to use. People are starting to understand it now. But it certainly is hyper-local and hyper-personal. It's something that's used all the time as a personal device. And as we're starting to see more and more integration with location, whether it comes from a GPS or just users aligning themselves with sort of virtual location, it's becoming very important. And what we've seen is that, particularly in terms of brands, gradually agencies, we're starting to see much more acceptance of mobile as the medium. And the sort of setting in of like this sense of reality about how the audience is distributed. It doesn't necessarily make sense that your average company is going to be contributing 10% of its digital budget to mobile when 60% of the audience are on mobile in the digital space. I think that sort of alignment is starting to shift a little bit as time goes on. And there's some evils like the concept of the mobile microsite, the sort of little thing that's dropped into the campaign at the end to kind of deal with people who don't have desktop internet. It's essentially an afterthought. What we see, and I think this is a problem that a lot of brands and companies and marketers and advertisers are grappling with, is how do you articulate the concept of product and community, and then community and mobile. So I think a lot of people who have product don't necessarily think about product in terms of whether or not communities build around the product. They think about how many of these things can we sell and do people like them. But when you ask the question of how can you create community around this product, that becomes suddenly a very difficult idea. And you can put it on Facebook and put a like button there. That's not a community, right? That's a page with a like button. A community is when people start interacting with each other in the space of the product or the brand. And that's quite important. And I think then the next step obviously is how, if you're going to think about community in a digital sense, you've got to start thinking about mobile, because that's where people really are.
So my opinion on mobile communities is take communities to the people. In our experience at Vodacom, Mailing Guardian, and now at MoTribe, we have learned that mobile users feel quite isolated. The nature of the handsets is that it's you and it's your phone. I communicate with people, but it's me choosing to communicate with people. One thing that we have experienced is that users on mobile click ads. They see the ad, they find interest, they click it, and they follow through. They'll then register and forget that they've done that and never come back, but they do click the ads. So that is a very, very effective way for you to figure out how to get into the mobile web. So what we've done as MoTribe over the last 6 months is we've built a couple of different types of networks and communities. It's very calculated, and then it's very not. So what we did as a shotgun approach was we launched some city networks, and we've launched those networks in countries like India, Indonesia, Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt. And then we promote them, and users gather around those city networks, and we provide them content in those networks. So we'll have a dating room, we'll have a chat room, we'll have a place for them to upload photos and meet people from their city, and it's relatively local content. We then have genre-specific networks, so we have music networks or sports networks, or very broad, sweeping terms that anyone in the world can get involved in. The next thing we do is very, very fringe and very unique networks. One of the most successful ones we have as an example is a network called Emo Friends. This is one of the most unique experiences. They are the most isolated and violently defensive people that you'll ever meet. If you go into that network and you're not an emo kid, they will get you out of it. And that makes it very difficult to grow. So the trick though is that it proved our point that niche networks do work. And that's a very, very key thing. The user experience of a handset is something that people very often forget. So what you need to consider is how the handset works. And the handset is always on. I keep my phone on 24/7, literally. The experience is personal, like I've mentioned before. It's my phone, it's my experience, it's not a shared experience. This is the place that I live my life. And with that said, please don't frickin' spam me with SMS, because you are intruding into my life. And let me tell you, it doesn't work. people who are selling them to you tell you that they do, but they don't. When we were at the grid, the experiences we had were terrible. We would send out an SMS to 100,000 people and we'd lose 200,000. So it's a lose-lose. And for that alone, I believe that SMS is not the way to go. But it's also expensive. Like, on Facebook, you don't have to SMS someone to get their eyeballs on Facebook. It's not intrusive social networking. That's the way it's got to be. Communities and people rally around content. No content means the user gets bored and means that they leave. That what you should be doing is giving your users something to talk about, a place to talk about it, and people to talk about it with. Those are the three things that you need to have in your community. So communities are awesome. The reasons for this is the engagement rates shoot up when you give people the ability to engage. Static sites, as Vincent said, the Mobi microsite, are absolute flops and failures. That's where marketing thinking was 10 years ago. Let's push information to people because they'll just want it. Well, they don't just want it. What I want to do is talk to people who know that same thing and relate to them and engage with them. So at MoTribe, we've got some very broad sweeping stats that always look good. We have 90 pages per user, an average. They come on and click 90 pages. That's massive compared to web. We have over 35 minutes average time per visit. So users stay there. There's a reason they stay there. Firstly, they've spent money, physical money, airtime, to get onto your Mobi site. So you must have presented them with something cool enough for them to click. Then they'll see if it works for them, they'll carry on using it. Once you've got them, they'll stay. Because they might not know how they got to you. So they want to stay for as long as they can and get as much value as they can out of that. And we've also found 40 messages per active user per day. And those are private messages. Think about it, it's really logical, right? If they get 2 friends onto a MoTribe community, they don't have to SMS that friend. They all connect and they can then send private messages to their friends in that way. So you're replacing a service that they previously had to pay for. So there's a multitude of reasons that this stuff succeeds, and they're all very physical in the real world. And it's something that we all take for granted as marketers who target websites and above the line and that sort of thing. But it is something that you do need to consider. You need to start thinking niche. You need to be very calculated and very specific about who you're targeting, why, when, and how, because they aren't going to waste their time on your brand. You need to start thinking hyper-local. Now, notice local is very close to location, but we are not talking about location. Because for us, when we get a user to sign up, we go, what city are you in? And they tell us. So there's a free location lookup. Now we know what city they're in, so we can serve them city-relevant deals, we can tell them who's in their city too, we can give them city-relevant events because everyone tags everything they do with the location. So user-generated location is much more relevant to us than actually picking up where the user is within 10 meters. Users on mobile in emerging markets respond really well to very small incentives. So on mobile, don't give away prizes bigger than someone can conceptualize. So the average South African salary is between 3,500 and 4,500 rand a month, right? So if you give them a prize for 50,000 rand, that's a year's worth of their salary. That is really hard to conceptualize. It's like saying to someone, you can win a country. Okay, I'm not going to enter that competition because firstly, I don't know what I'd do with a country, and secondly, there's no chance I'm going to win that competition. There's so many other people who are going to enter. So what we started doing was giving really, really small snippets of prizes. So we give away 10 rand airtime every hour, or 100 rand airtime every day, and do that for 10 days, or 50 days, or 100 days. Or we'd say upload 10 photos and we'll give you 5 rand airtime. I promise you now, we increased our entries 1,000-fold because people could conceptualize that sort of context. Using the emo example, exclude and you will build loyalty. So tell people you can come in but that guy can't, and the guy you've let in will be loyal to you. If you let everyone in all the time, it gets kind of boring, right? And Facebook did that really well until they hit 600 million users. But in the beginning, you had to have a Harvard email address. Same thing applies on mobile. And it is more genre specific in terms of emo or whatever, but people are quite protective over what they believe in. Mobile is not standalone. Vincent said it. Agencies at the moment, for some unbeknown reason, are not considering mobile as a first. They're considering it as a last, and therefore they have really crappy, really average Mobi sites they shove in at the end, and it flops. And then they go, oh, mobile doesn't work. And then they don't get any budget for mobile, so therefore it doesn't work. So it needs to not be a standalone. It can be, and we've got campaigns that have worked as a standalone, but it shouldn't be. Mobile SEO is something that's going to become very, very important in the very near future. Mobile marketing and advertising is easy to do, is cost effective, and works.